Yo, what's going on, Arkansas Razorback fans? Welcome to Hogvillenet YouTube. Thank you guys for being patient. We kind of ran into some technical issues. This stuff's going to happen. You know, we're still trying to figure out some of the software and everything, but we got it going now. Otis Kirk's coming in crystal clear. Look at that. That looks 4K right there, my man. You're looking great.
I've got a great face for the radio, man. I don't know about these damn Zooms though, or StreamYards. I've got a great face for the radio, though, man.
Yeah. All right, do us a favor, guys. Make sure you like the video, please. Make sure you like. If you have any questions, fire them away. I'll get them to Otis, and share the content. That's also just as equally important. And go to hogville.net for the latest from Otis, Dudley, and Kevin. All these guys, you know, Otis and Dudley covering football. Kevin's covering basketball. We've got a little bit to talk about here, Otis. We're gonna shoot through this. Starting off first, I wanted to ask you. Well, my questions just there we go. Sounds like today. So we didn't get a play count, did we, of how many plays they ran today during the scrimmage?
We did not get that, and just so everyone knows, we did not get to see the scrimmage. We've talked to Sam Pittman, Dalton Wagner, and Jalen Catalon, though. So that's where we're coming from on this stuff. We're not seeing any of it live, none of it. But no, to answer your question, we did not get a play count or total plays this week.
Last week was 100+ plays. We know that, and it sounded like last week they had offense kind of blew up last week. This week sounds like the defense took a step up this week or today.
Well, when you get Jalen Catalon back, you're going to be better. Let's don't overshadow that. You know, it kind of got overlooked. I had forgotten it until I was thinking about it. Cat wasn't there last week. So when Cat comes back, the defense is going to get better. You're talking about one of the best safeties in the country, if not the best. He's certainly one of the best. And first or second day, well, a high draft pick next year. So when Catalon's back, you're going to have a better defense. And I think the defense is just Jordan Dominic, Landon Jackson. You know, some new guys are starting to come on. Latavius Brini is coming on. Dwight McLaughlin. So I think they have a lot of transfers on defense, Ty, that they don't have necessarily on offense. You've got the two receivers. So I think it's natural that it would take the defense, besides just Catalon not being there. I think it's natural that the defense would be making more strides now because they lost more starters than the offense last year. You know, I mean, you know, the offense, really, you take away Myron Cunningham and Traylon Burks and Tyson Morris and Davion Warren, you know, and Kern, they didn't really lose a whole lot else, you know. They lost some depth. I mean, Traylon Smith transferred, but they had so many running backs that, you know, it didn't really make any difference. But yeah. I think it's just natural. The defense is getting better. It's good that Landon Jackson, Jordan Dominic, and some of those guys get break. Drew Sanders picked this thing up from day one. You know, I didn't mention him as a transfer because he picked this up like he'd been like a veteran and been there for 10 years, you know, like Dalton Wagner has on the offense, and Dorian Gerald. But Sanders, but it's just, I think it took an adjustment period. Terry Kennedy is really coming on now, Ty, and you know how good this is a kid that's 6'1", 315. So I mean, they're going to be okay. In fact, I had a guy that's a former player tell me this week the defense is going to be much better than it was last year. This is the next player. Take it for what it's worth. That's his opinion. Not saying it's true or what, but I'm just telling you, the guy knows football. He's experienced. He played it. And he has actually seen a lot of probably saw the scrimmage last week, to be honest with you. He's seen a lot of practices stuff, and he just feels like the defense is going to be better than it was last year. That would not surprise me.
The defensive line sounds like this week. I know Drew Sanders was credited with 3 sacks last Saturday. Again, we don't know. They're not going full contact. They're not bringing them down to the ground. They're not tackling them to the ground. But Drew Sanders apparently had a good scrimmage. Today we heard some names we haven't heard a lot about. We heard about the Georgia Tech transfer. Sam Pittman bragged on him, and the LSU transfer, Jackson. So Jordan Dominic and Jackson apparently took big steps today.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm friends with Jordan Dominic, and I just want him to go out there and play what he's capable, like he's capable of doing, not get down on himself. Because Jordan's got a lot of talent. He's a great kid, very nice kid, great person, and I was proud to hear his name called today as someone. Landon Jackson, I'm gonna tell you, Ty, I saw that kid play at Pleasant Grove down in Texas. Let me tell you, you talking about a stud. He was a big time player. And okay, it's high school football. I get that. Right. But I'm telling you, he was recruited by everybody in the country. He's 6'7", 274 pounds. Yep. Landon Jackson, if he can stay healthy, and I think he banged up an ankle a little bit today. Hopefully it's nothing serious. He's battled injuries, but if he can stay healthy, he is big time player. Dominic is just a guy that's smart, can play, and you're right. It's good to see those guys get some different people getting some stats today that maybe we didn't hear about. My guess is that Bumper Pool and Drew Sanders probably didn't scrimmage much today. I mean, they really have nothing to prove. I know they're giving Jordan Crook, for one, a little bit. And you brought this up the other day at practice, actually. I'll credit you with that. You saw Jordan Crook working first team with the defensive linebackers some. He's obviously not going to start, but he's getting some first team work, because if somebody goes down, he may be the one that goes in. Maybe it's someone else, but Crook is going to be. I'll make a prediction on here that Jordan Crook, before he leaves here, will be better than Bumper or Drew Sanders. That's my prediction on Jordan Crook. Yeah, I know, and believe me, I think they are great. That's not a put down in any shape or form to Bumper or Drew. I think they are great. Great players, not good, but great. But I think Jordan Crook, I keep talking. Jordan Crook, I think, has a chance to be better than either one of them before he leaves here. I'm really high on that kid. And that's the tall order, because they are great. They're not good. They're great.
He looks good. Watching him, me and you and some other media members were watching him blow up some of their those giant lifesaver. I don't know what those are. That's a really unique drill. But he seems so explosive coming out of that. Go ahead.
Well, no, I just gonna say, yeah, he does. But when it really caught my eye was when he caught Malik Hornsby twice on the corners out there on the edge. Malik was rolling out, and twice, 2 plays in a row, not twice in one practice, but 2 plays in a row. Jordan Crook got out there and got. Drew Sanders did that in the spring, if you remember, at that scrimmage. I don't know if you were there April 16th, but Drew Sanders did. He caught Malik rolling out. I'm telling you, man, when you're a linebacker and you get out there on Malik Hornsby and hold your own, you've done something, because I'm telling you, Malik Hornsby has great speed. Not good, but great speed, man. That kid can get out there and fly. And I saw Crook. You and I saw Crook do it 2 plays in a row, man.
Yeah, I think your assessment, I can't argue with it, because the more I see of him, and granted, we get 25, if we're lucky, 30 minutes.
Yeah, and I'm going back a little bit to high school too, Ty. A little bit to high school. I'm going back a little bit to high school, where I just saw him in high school. Yeah. And when Arkansas, he committed to Oklahoma State, for anyone that doesn't know. And when Arkansas got him to visit, I became actually pretty close to him. We talked a lot, and he told me he was coming here. He didn't announce it for a few weeks, but he told me he was coming here. And I knew they were getting something special. I was going to see him play last year, the night before the A&M game, and traffic got me on the way down. I didn't leave till the afternoon, which I'll never make that mistake again. Structure through Oklahoma killed me, man. Absolutely. I pulled into McKinney. Allen at 7:00 that night. His game started at 7. I was still in Allen, Texas. It took me 6 hours to get to Allen, and I mean, I don't drive slow. It's not that. I drive fast. But when you're sitting in construction and not moving, you don't go fast. I will not make that mistake this year.
When we leave the media room, I'm usually behind you going down going through the North Street. I'm usually behind you, and I'm watching you zip through traffic, and I'm like, yep.
I do not drive slow. Andrew Hutchinson rode with me when he worked with me at 24/7. He worked with me, and his grandfather drives like a grandfather. I mean, slow. And so the first time we went to Dallas together to the A&M game, Andrew didn't know what to expect. He thought he's going to be like my grandfather. And we were going, he's over holding on the seat saying, "You don't drive like my grandfather, you know." So, I mean, yeah, it's, I don't drive slow. So when I tell you it took me 6 hours to get to Dallas, it took 6 hours. And it was not my fault. But I will not make that mistake this year. I will leave earlier, and I will be at a high school game. In fact, I mean, this is way down the road, and they're recruiting more kids in the Dallas area, Ty. Yeah. I may even go down. If there's a game on Thursday night, and Lanny will pay for the extra day or in the hotel, I may go down Thursday, cover a game that night, stay there Friday, cover a game on Friday night, then cover the A&M and Arkansas game on Saturday. I'm going to look at that because they've got there's a lot of kids in the Dallas area there who are committed enough that if one of them plays on Thursday night, it's close by, I may do that because I got Caleb James Braxton, the kid at McKinney, Marcus Shavers is the head coach now there. I've got a lot of kids I want to see play, and you can't do it on one night. So I may Carson, right. Dean, there's just a bunch of them. There's a bunch of them.
Yeah. Getting back to the scrimmage really quick. Can you go over? You've got some of the stats. Can you go over a little bit of what we saw from the offense just for a second?
Okay, the first drive, and I'm going to read you what we were given. The first drive was the Rocket Sanders show, and it was against the number 2 D. The words was he probably had 50, 60 to 75 yards in gains. He had a 30-yard pass from KJ Jefferson, and then KJ capped the drive off with a 5-yard touchdown run and was not touched on the run. Warren Thompson had a 25-yard catch from KJ. Rocket had a 15-yard run later. Keitron Jackson caught a 65-yard touchdown pass from Malik Hornsby. Trey Knox had a 10-yard reception from KJ. Jaden Hazelwood, 15-yard reception from KJ. And unless I say touchdown, these are just receptions. If I say touchdown, it was a touchdown. Nathan Back. Now we're in the red zone, Ty. In the red zone, Nathan Bax, third-string tight end, had an 18-yard touchdown catch from Malik Hornsby. Sam Bakke had a 5-yard touchdown catch from Cape Fortin, and it was like a flip play. Cape Fortin did about a 3/4 flip, and it went for 5 yards, and Bakke caught it. KJ threw a 10-yard touchdown to Matt Landers.
Okay.
Quincy Mcadoo had a 15-yard touchdown catch from Malik Hornsby. Let me see. I think that is it. Let me scroll. No. McAdoo had a 25-yard catch from Hornsby also. So he had 2 catches from Hornsby. I'm sorry. I had to scroll down. My deal got outside. But there's a kid that's coming on. I'll be quick with this, Ty, but Quincy Mcadoo is really coming on at wide receiver. Yes. He's really coming on. I thought he and Isaiah Satana last year with two of the best receivers in the nation. Two of the best, not just in Arkansas, but 2 of the best in the nation. And they are proving it here at Arkansas. And Bakke is a good ball player too. Jaquaylin Crawford hit the transfer portal today, man. These receivers, they just hadn't missed on those guys. You take the 3 last year, Keitron, Jaden, and the Bryce Stevens. I'm sorry, I always forget. Those were 3. This year they get 3 high school kids, the 2 we talked about, plus Isaiah, plus McAdoo, plus Bakke. Then you get Jaden Hazelwood and Matt Lander. There's 8 receivers in the last 2 classes, and they haven't missed on a single one. And Jaden Wilson's really coming on. So you can see why some of these older receivers are kind of looking at it and saying, maybe I can't play here.
We did also really quick. And we'll go back to the screen. We'll talk more about what's going on with the guys on the field. We did have a player enter the portal today. I almost forgot about that. Did you want to talk about that? Do you want to talk about that for just a second? Crawford, who transferred here from Oklahoma, he hits the portal right towards the end of fall camp. What are your thoughts on Crawford?
Well, I think he saw the handwriting on the wall. I mean, he wasn't going to play. He left there because they moved him. They moved him to defensive back, so he entered the transfer portal. Here, he was at receiver and getting to work, but it just wasn't going to happen here for him. He had 3 catches last year. He's not a bad player, Ty. But like I said earlier, the deal is they've hit on 8 receivers in the last 2 classes. They have not missed on any of those kids. And so the guys that were here before that, what few were here before that, they're just not going to play, man. I mean, I'd love to see Landon Rogers go back to quarterback. I really would. I just don't. I know when they moved him to tight end, they had a need there. They were short at tight end. But now he's a receiver.
I'll say this: we've seen him drop balls, and I'm not trying to call him out. I'm not trying to say he's going to be a bad wide receiver or anything like that. But we have seen Landon Rogers. You know, like you said, the receiving room, it's just stacked.
Well, you know,
it's just kind of crazy to see, and so he's not getting in the spotlight at all. And when you brought that up today in the media room about maybe they should think about moving him back to quarterback, there's something that's something to, I think. That made me think maybe they should.
Hey, I'm sorry. You know, I've been saying 8. I've said that 2 or 3 times on here. You know what? It's 9. I don't know how I forgot Warren Thompson, because Briles said yesterday, and you were there, Briles said that Warren Thompson's been the most consistent receiver of the whole room. And, you know, he's the leading receiver coming back. He had 19 catches for, I've written it a million times, 19 catches last year, I think 2 touchdowns. I don't remember the yardage. But so actually that's 9 receivers in 2 years. I'm sorry. I forgot about Warren Thompson being in last year's class.
That's a lot of guys to keep up with.
Can I say something real quick on Hazelwood?
Yeah.
One of the knocks on him from some Arkansas, well, I don't know if it's knocks, but one of the questions I've got frequently, I write that he led OU in catches with 39. He led OU in touchdown receptions with 6. But, you know, those went for 399 yards. I've had a lot of fans say, is he not a deep threat? Is he a possession receiver? He is not a possession receiver. That was a product of the OU offense. The system dictated the short, quick passes to him. I asked KJ, you were there yesterday. I asked KJ about that, you know, and that kid's going to get deep. We've seen him get deep. Back in the spring when all the practices were open, I know you weren't working with me then, but all the practices were fully open then, and he consistently went deep and caught pass. Jaden Hazelwood's not a possession receiver. He's going to have a lot more than 10 yards per catch in Arkansas. I can assure you of that. He's not a possession. That was a product of or I don't know if it's product. I don't know what you call it, but it was the result of the offense that he was in at OU. That's what he was asked to do, Ty. Mm-hmm. He's going to catch deep balls at Arkansas. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that anybody's going to have 66 catches for over 1,000 yards like Traylon. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, but I'm going to tell you he will catch more than 10 yards per catch, and you know he is a deep threat. Just believe me. The fans are going to see this pretty quickly.
Right. We have some questions. I told you guys if you have some questions, we're going to read them for Otis. If you have anything for me, someone did ask me about my shows. Yeah, there's gonna be plenty of content, guys. There's gonna be plenty of content. Things are gonna pick up. It's just been kind of a wild week.
Have you told them we're gonna have a post-game show too?
They do know about the post-game show. I've told them that on Tuss Talk with Ty.
Good deal.
I've mentioned it here before. We are having a post-game show. We have that pretty much ironed out. I think our plan moving forward is going to be pretty badass. I'm not going to lie. I'm really.
You got Ty, you've got myself, and you got Dudley Dawson. You've got a lot of experience. Ty knows what he's doing with this. Ty knows what he's doing with this stuff. He's the best. Like I told Lanny at the time, he's the best in the business at what he does. Dudley's record speaks for itself, and his work background, and so you're going to enjoy this, fans. You're going to enjoy this.
It's already been a blast. Andrew McAdams says, question for Otis. Do you see Arkansas finishing in the top 15 in this recruiting cycle? The highest composite they finished in the modern era is 18th back in 2004. So Andrew did a little bit of homework. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, you know, one thing I see, and people don't believe me, but when the kids commit to Arkansas, a lot of times they get knocked down. I mean, Luke Haas was the number 1 player in Oklahoma, and now he's dropping, and the kid ain't played a game. The last game he played was in the state championship game when Bixby completed an undefeated season, and he was the star player on that team. They went undefeated, won the state championship. They like to move these kids down. Could Arkansas be in the top 15? I think they could. But one thing you got to keep in mind, I don't know where they're at now. I don't really keep up with that much. But I will say this. One thing to keep in mind with Arkansas, their high school portion of their class, to use a country expression, a lot of the hay is in the barn. I'm not saying they're not going to get anyone else. I'm sure they will. But it's pretty much done. I really think they'll get Bison Lang, the offensive lineman. And that would be 24 if they get by. But I'm not going to rule out getting some more players. They're going to keep recruiting. They're not just saying we're finished. But I'm just saying I think the majority of the high school recruiting is done. So I don't know. I guess what I'm saying, I don't know if they're going to shoot up a whole lot. So from where they're at. I do think if you mix in the transfers, because I think Arkansas will get some really good transfers out of the portal after the season. I think Sam has proved that. Barry Odom, Kendall Browse, those guys know what they're doing. You know, this team is not the same team if you don't have Drew Sanders, Jaden Hazelwood, Matt Landers, Jordan Dominic, Landon Jackson, Latavius Brinney. And I'm leaving Dwight McLaughlin. I'm probably leaving somebody out. But I'm just telling you, this team is not the same team without those guys. And so they know what they're doing. But, yeah, I think they can finish the top 15. But when I see kids commit to Arkansas and then get knocked down and get dropped in the ratings and commit somewhere else and get moved up, I kind of shake my head. I work for the recruiting services. I know how they work. You guys put a lot more stock and trust in it than I do. I'm not a fan of it, but I understand it is for fans. But hopefully they will finish the top 15. I think they're going to have a very good class, if that answers your question better. Whether it's 15th or 25th, I think Arkansas is going to have a very, very good recruiting class again.
We have also a question from John Hawes. He said he hit you with a softball question when we did our Ask Otis. He hit you with a softball. He said he's going to get you. Here's a better question.
Just throw it in the air, man. I like them softballs. I can knock them out of the park, out of the infield, actually.
With what we saw with Tennessee, Florida, Texas A&M last season, how important is it that Hornsby and Fortin are ready to play as KJ? So be as ready as KJ, I think is what he's saying.
Well, I tell you what, when I say 9-3, and the last show we had, somebody thought that was optimistic, and it may very well be. With the schedule they've got, it may very well be. But my predictions based on KJ playing 13 games like he did last year. But to answer his question, they've got to be ready because you can't guarantee that KJ is going to play 13, 14 games this year. You just can't do it. Hopefully he does. And if he does, Arkansas will be a lot better team. And I will say this about Malik. Apparently today, we read the stats earlier. He had a very good day, it sounds like. He had several touchdowns. When I've seen Malik throw the football, he's looked better than he did at any other time.
Yes.
And Fortin, they're really high on him. We don't see enough of it for me to really say that I'm as high as Sam is on him. It doesn't matter doesn't matter. Sam counts a little bit more than I do. But no, but they're really high on Fortin. But and Ty, one thing people forget, they look at Cade Fortin and they think walk on. This was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school. He was a 4-star with ESPN coming out of Georgia, the high school. I think it was Sewanee North Gwinnett, if I'm not mistaken. I may be wrong on that school. But he was a 4-star. I think that Arkansas is better off this year if KJ gets hurt than they were last year. And the reason I say that, to answer his question, because I think Malik's ahead in his passing game where he was this time last year. He struggled. If you remember the second half of that UAPB game, they didn't score. And they weren't told don't score. They were told run the offense, but he benched all the starters. And they couldn't score against UAPB in the second half. And that's after they hung a ton of points on him in the first. I think when he played the second half of the A&M game, not all of it, but a lot of it, when KJ went down the very first play, a running play, and he hit something on the Arkansas sideline over there. But I think Malik is – you and I walked in the first practice, Ty. We walked in together. I think you and I, maybe John, Dudley might have been there. But I know the very first play we saw was Malik throwing a 75-yard touchdown to Jaden Wilson. I mean, the very first play we saw. Yep. And I've really been impressed with how Malik is coming on. And one good thing about it with the development at wide receiver, I think it's allowed them to give him more quarterback work than maybe they thought they would last spring. But when you add Isaiah, you add Landers, Jaden Wilson comes on, they're going to play Malik with receiver, and they should, but it lessened the need to put him out there, I think, as much as they planned on. Because I think last spring, even in preseason, Sam talked about if he didn't win the quarterback job, he was moving to receiver. But you don't hear that now, I mean, it sounds like you're going to move full time, and you don't hear that now. And then Cade Fortin, like I said, look, I haven't seen enough to really say I feel comfortable with him in the game, but Sam Pittman and Kendall Briles have, and they say that. So we'll see. We don't get to see much practice,
No.
So we see 4 periods, and people don't understand. By the time we get out there, they let us in. First period's gone. And then you got second, 3, and 4, and a lot of times it's just not very much going on in those periods.
Yeah, we get to watch them kind of warm up. We get to watch them do the quick plays, and then that's really
the fastball deal,
fastball, and then back to just drills. But since we're talking about Malik Hornsby, what do you make of the QB2 spot? I mean, you and I kind of talked about it leaving a little bit today. Is there a possibility he might lose the QB2 spot to Fortin?
I'm sorry, Todd. I can't hear you. What was that again?
Is there a possibility here? Do you think Malik, I mean, we know he's being challenged at that QB2 spot. Do you think we could see a change at QB2?
One thing I find interesting on that, and I'll answer it this way. When they get asked about, is there a battle going on at number 2, they don't shoot that down, Ty. They don't shoot that down. If you remember, they don't shoot it down when that's asked.
Yeah.
And that makes me think there is a battle going on, because it would be real easy. The first time somebody asked, I expected Sam or whoever's answering the question to say, oh, no, Malik's number 2, Cade's really coming on. But they don't shoot that theory down.
No.
I don't see it myself, but like I said, they judge everything. I will say this, when Kendall was talking about the completion percentages and stuff yesterday, obviously KJ was number 1, which we would all suspect on that. Yeah. Fortin was number 2. Then Malik was number 3. I see some improvement in Malik. If KJ goes down, I still think Malik will be the first one in the game time, but I find it interesting that when that question gets asked over there that you just asked me, they don't shoot it down. If you've noticed, no matter who it is, if it's Briles, who we only talked to once, I get that. But Sam, I think, has been asked at maybe more than once, and he didn't shoot it down. And that it kind of surprised me, to be honest with you.
Me too. That's kind of what I want why I wanted your opinion on it, because you and I haven't really talked in depth about it. I found that interesting. They're not shooting that question down, so I'm starting to wonder.
And that's what's interesting right there. They're not shooting it down, because I expected them to.
For Otis or Titan, guys, I'm trying to read we've got a lot of questions coming in. I'm trying to read. Obviously, I can't read them all. But for Otis or Ty, what's the timeline for Renfro to return? That's a good question, actually. Before Fortin transferred here, I remember people being high on him. Could he win the QB3 spot back? So when are we getting him back? When is Fortin back?
We've asked that question, Ty, and we have not got a direct answer on that. Yeah, Renfro. Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, we've asked that question, and just Sam has never specifically narrowed it down to a timeline. I'm gonna tell you this: what the question called the questioner. I love Cade Renfro. I'll tell you what. We were out there. I went to camp this summer out there, watched the football campers, and the reason I'm saying this, I'm getting to Cade Renfro. Hazelwood had somebody out there. Anybody would throw to him every day. Jaden Hazelwood's got the Mike Woods work ethic. Out there every day in 100-degree heat catching balls. Anybody would come with him. And nearly every time it was Cade Renfro throwing to him. And I loved Renfro last year when he was in practice and stuff, but when we got to see him, I think he's got some potential. I agree with the person asking the question. I'm sorry, I don't have a timeline because that has been asked and we have not been given one. I would suspect he should be back at some point this season. I think it'd be hard for him to come in later on and win the number 3 job. Now, would it be impossible for him to win it next year? No. I mean, I think I've been more impressed. I'm just going to tell you my feeling. I've been more impressed with Renfro than I have Fortin. Okay, there it is. I said it. I don't, Sam and them are really blown away with Fortin, and I'm not, by no means am I putting Fortin down, but I have been more impressed with Renfro when I saw him than I have been with Fortin. I think Renfro has a chance to play some at Arkansas. He's a good quarterback. Would he ever be the starter? No, but he could be the third string like the person asked. Mm-hmm. I don't think this year, but he could be next year. And Lord knows he could possibly move up to 2 depending on who's here next year. I mean, who will be here? Will KJ be here next year? Will Hornsby be here? Fortin. I don't know who all is going to be here next year, So, but we know Malachi is going to be here. Malachi Singleton, thank God he's going to be here. He is a stud. But yeah, I mean, I'm not ruling out one day that Renfro could be the number 2 or number 3 quarterback here. Yeah, I think that's possible. I like him.
I do too. What little I've seen of him, obviously you've seen more, but what little I've seen of him, I like him too. I think I thought he was going to compete this year had he stayed healthy to be in the conversation, to be the backup. Obviously he wasn't going to win the job over KJ.
I was going to say, if he was healthy, he might be in the hunt. Well, I mean, if Fortin's in the hunt for number 2, then I know Renfro would certainly be in that mix as well. Yeah, I think he would be.
We have a question. Oh, and by the way,
I still think it's going to be.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I still think Hornsby's going to be the backup quarterback, guys. Yeah. I really do, no matter who's out there. But we'll see.
Be sure and go to hogville.net for all the latest and greatest from the greatest. Otis Kirk, of course, will have his article out later today. And he's already, if you go to hogville.net, you can find the Kendall Browse prefers to recruit in van, talks quarterbacks, sponsored by Dr. Pepper. This is not, but we have that link. Let me share that for you guys if you want to go read that after the show. Yeah. Boom. There you go.
And I have a defensive story up from the practice too, from the scrimmage. I have a defensive story up with Cat.
I'll find that and I'll post it for everyone when the show. If I can find it or at the end of the show.
That. I've written the quarterback from Browse this morning. I know Dudley has a tidbits from the scrimmage. I don't know if he's got his scrimmage story up, but he had a tidbits from the press conference, and he is working. If it's not out, he's working on a story as well from the scrimmage. So that would give us 4 stories today. Plus, Kevin's had 2 or 3 good basketball stories.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of good content. So you guys make sure you go to hogville.net for all that. It's all free. It's all 100% free. There's no.
You can't beat that price, man. And I hear people say you get what you pay for. Give it a try. You won't say that after you try. You may think that it's free, so it's not any good. Go, just give us a try. That's all I'm asking. Give us a try. Read Dudley. Read me. Read Kevin, and watch Ty's shows. I mean, Dudley and I have worked for pay sites all of our lives, and people paid for it there. So if you're getting it free, and I'm not putting anybody's service down. I'm not putting anybody down. I understand people want, but I do know people, probably most of them are going to read more than one place. Just like I do about the Lakers. I read every place I can find. So, I mean, just read our stuff. I'm not telling you can't read other people's stuff. I couldn't tell anybody to do anything. Well, I don't have authority to tell anybody to do anything. But I'm asking people, please read our stuff, and give it a try. I think you're cheating yourself if you don't, because it's free, it's out there, and it's coming from people that know what they're talking about. And just give us a try, all of it.
Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe too over here, and all the free stuff is on hogville.net, and there will be a link down below for you guys to go check that stuff out. We have, and this is something too that everyone's talking about, which is the running back room. Ash CFB says, what about RB2? Seems like Rashad Dubinion and AJ Green are battling it out with Johnson being out with injury. What's your take on what's going on in the running back room?
Yeah, I think there again, we know Rocket is the featured back. Sam said today that when Dominic gets back, that there will be 2 featured backs. But so that's going to get it down to those 2, and then AJ and Rashad are going to play football, though. Ty, they're going to play, and they're going to play a lot. You don't see teams back in the old days running 45 times, running back carry 45 times in a game or something. That doesn't happen much anymore because the kids are so big and physical, and so they like to keep backs fresh. But Rashad has got a chance to move up there. I do think, though, when Dominic Johnson comes back, he will be in the top 2, and then you'll have Green and Rashad fighting it out there in 2. But I like AJ Green. I like all those kids. I think Joyner's got a great future. We'll see what happens there, but I think they've got some very good players running. They got a deep running back. Jimmy Smith's done a heck of a job recruiting there, Ty. I mean, as everybody I think knows that, but I think Jimmy Smith's done a very good job recruiting there. So it's impressive what he's pulled off.
Yeah, it really is. Question from Tunka Todd.
Mm-hmm.
Is defensive tackle a priority in recruiting? If so, how many are being targeted in the 23-24 class?
Oh, yeah. Defensive tackle is always a priority. Right now, they have 2 high school defensive tackles for sure. Steven Johnson, and then, your big kid, Ian. I forget how you pronounce his last name, but the kid from Georgia, the big Ridgeway type kid. The interesting part there is, will Caleb James be an inside or outside? Will he be an end or will he be inside? He's probably going to be like some of these guys like Eric Gregory and some of the others where they play all 4 positions. Caleb is that type person. But because I've asked him, and he said they really haven't defined if he would be an end or if he'd be an interior player. But Caleb has got potential. But, yeah, defensive tackle is going to be a priority. I think depending on what they do, they've got 4 defensive linemen in recruiting committed right now. 2 are for sure tackles, nose guard types. I think they still would take another one from the high school if they could find them. And also, I think that will be a place where they probably get 1 or 2 from the transfer portal later on, Ty. I do think you're going to see them going to the transfer portal and getting some more defensive tackles in recruiting. I mean, you can't get too many defensive tackles. You just can't do it. And they're going to lose Isaiah Nichols for sure after this season. So, or I would assume. And I think you'll see them probably target maybe 4 in this class, maybe 5. They've got 2. If Caleb moves out there, the inside there, that's 3. I still think they'll get 2 from the portal. I do think they take 2 defensive tackles from the portal. Okay, in 24, there again, I think it's going to be about the same thing. It'll be between 4 and 6 defensive tackles if they can find the right ones. I think that's going to be pretty much a number going forward. It's going to help if they can keep Deke Adams and not change coaches every year.
Yes.
That's been a hindrance. Might have been maybe it's a necessity, but it's hard.
They've had 3 different defensive line coaches.
Yeah, they've had a different one every year since Sam's been here, and these kids are trying to learn from different defensive line coaches, and it's not they're going to spin it as a positive, but it's not. And there are some things. I think every one of them had some things they do well, and the kids retained that. But overall, if you can look at the job that Kenny Guyton's done in year 2, how much better the receiver room was than in year 1, Ty. And it's not a coincidence that when you keep a guy around, Jimmy Smith starting his 3rd year here, look how much better the running back room's got. It's not a coincidence when these guys stay and you retain your position coach that you get better there. And Dominic Bowman came in, Deke Adams came in, and they're recruiting well. Nothing against those guys, but they will recruit even better in the future because they know their players better. They still haven't seen their players or coaching in a game. Deke hasn't coached any of these guys in the game, and neither has Dominic.
Nope.
But once they do and get through a season, you recruit, you got some good players committed. Braxton, the cornerback, is a stud. But you get these kids come in and bring them in, and then. But yeah, I think to answer his question, between 4 to 6 defensive tackles in a class. That's a lot, but we got to remember they've done away with the 25 per year. Yep. They're just recruiting to the 85. Now, if they had the 20, if you were limited to 25, no way you recruit 6 each year, or 5 or 6 defensive. But with the 85 and the other, I think they will sacrifice a player here, a player there to get that many defensive tackles if they can get the right ones. That's the key. They're not going to just sign defensive tackle to be signed, but if they can get the right ones, they're going to do that.
And here's another one. This is from Tony Brown. He wants to know, do you think our offense relies too much on KJ Jefferson? This is a good question. It seems like schools like A&M and Ole Miss and even Mississippi State can handle quarterback injuries more than we can. I don't know about that. A&M.
Well, well, no, I mean, no, they don't rely on KJ too much. You've got to have a number one quarterback. Everybody's favorite player is the backup quarterback. You can't.
Yeah,
you've got to have a stud at quarterback, and Arkansas's got one. And no, they don't rely on him too much. I mean, it's just a fact. And last year, if the Ole Miss starter had gone down, they wouldn't have been the same team. I promise you. So, no, I don't know about that. I disagree. They don't rely on KJ at all too much. He's the straw that stirs the drink on that offense. And I'm telling you, man, my prediction of 9-3, it changes if he's not there. And that's not because they rely on him too much. That's because he's that good.
Well, and another quarterback, and I'm not trying to compare the two, but they're kind of similar in what they are. Not that Arkansas was great when he was here, but how many games does Arkansas win without Matt Jones doing what Matt Jones did here? You don't win as many, and that's just the bottom line.
Well, if you got 2 quarterbacks and they're equal or something, you don't have any. You've got to have a stud at quarterback in the SEC, and then you go from there. And that's what Arkansas's got with KJ, and you've got to go from there. And then if you can have a backup, go back to Sam's first year, game 9, they're at Missouri. Felipe Franks is hurt. Can't go. KJ was ready to play. Came in there and put more points on the board than Franks did all season in one game. Arkansas scored by 4. I think 35 was the most that they scored with Franks at quarterback. It was 50-something with KJ against Missouri. So if Arkansas can get a quarterback like that ready, if Malik is ready or Fortin's ready, great. But you can't rely on a quarterback too much. If KJ's your man, and he is, that's what you got to have. You don't want your quarterback situation be, well, if this guy comes in, he's as good as the other one. That's not. You don't have a quarterback when you have that. You got to have one guy that's a big time player. Clint Sterner, Matt Jones, Quinn Grovey, all those guys I could name on and on. They were the guys, you know. Felipe Franks, those were the players. Those were the guys. And when they didn't have a stud at quarterback, they weren't as good.
Yep, I agree with that. I think it's a good question from the angle of the amount of abuse that he takes, right? Because he runs I think I looked at it. He runs an average of something like 12 times a game, and that's not including the contact that he takes from sacks or whatever getting hit. So I think it's a good question from that context. But
it's a good question. I just don't. I mean, I don't. But he did lead the team in rushing last year too. So he did take some leg. I think one thing that may help him tying for the person, Tony or whoever the person was that asked the question, I think one thing that may help him this year, and the backup for that matter, they've got that offensive line. Not only do they have 4 starters back, you go look at how many games that Wagner, Limmer, Latham, and Stromberg have started. They're not just those are not just 4 starters coming back. Those guys have been here since Abraham Lincoln was president. I mean, they've been here forever, man. So, I mean, you're talking about experience for your 4 starting offensive linemen who are very experienced. These are not one-year starters, people. These are guys that started a lot of games in Arkansas. That's a story to be great to write if I got my rear and write it, because how many games it's one thing to have 4 starters back from the offensive line. It's a different thing to have 4 starters back who have started multiple years. That talks about how down the offensive line was when Sam got here. That's what that speaks volumes to.
Yeah.
Not necessarily if these guys are superstars. Not saying they're not, but what I'm saying, it's not that they were superstars or 5 stars or whatever, but that speaks to how low what shape the offensive line was when Sam got here. And so these kids and they've gotten better. They've got a good offensive line, and these kids are experienced, and they're very experienced. There's a difference experience in four starters than four starters who have started multiple years. There is a difference there.
I agree.
And I think that will help all the quarterbacks and the running backs. They help everybody.
And they're recruiting studs too. I mean, and we've talked about Kutas, we've talked about Crawford, of course Crawford came here a little while ago, but I know I'm forgetting somebody. Marion Harris,
Andrew Chamley and Devin Manuel and Jaden St. John, Marion Harris. They recruit. They have Marcus Henderson. They have recruited some very good offensive line. I love Chamley, man. That is a big kid. I mean, he's a long. He is what left tackles is supposed to look like. I mean, Andrew Chamley is what left tackles are supposed to look like. That kid has a great future. Marion Harris, his dad played here. Marion, man, is going to be a stud here. We could go on. You said Kudas. I mean, Russell, the street kid came here as a walk-on. Still is, but I mean, from Bentonville, heck, he's playing the second team. Some of these second team deals, as I talked to I guess Wagner about today, or maybe it was Sam, but some of these guys are second team freshmen because other people are hurt. Like Henderson was hurt, Devin Manuel was hurt, so that's one reason. But I mean, they've got some. The offensive line, as long as Sam Pittman and Cody Kennedy here, will be a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, so things are looking pretty bright on the offensive line. Shocker when Sam Pittman is your head coach. I mean, I guess that's just to be expected.
Yeah, right. But him being the head coach has helped them attract offensive linemen because they tell me, Ty, in recruiting, they know that will always be a priority. Yeah, it won't get lost in the shuffle. If you have a offensive coordinator who's a quarterback coach, you're never going to get short on quarterback. Sam will never shorten the offensive line. I mean, these kids say that time after time, and they know it's true. And so he's going to take care of them. And Cody, he lucked out when the other coach went to LSU and he hired Cody Kennedy. He got lucky there.
That's a great hire.
Nothing against the other coach, but Cody Kennedy is one of the best offensive line coaches. He's a better coach.
And you and I, we kind of got to talk to him a little bit a couple of months ago during the junior camp that was held inside the Walker Pavilion. He's a character. I like him a lot.
Oh, he's funny, and his dad's a great person who's one of our biggest fans. And on Hogville, Henry Kennedy, big fan of ours at Hogville, and very knowledgeable guy. Yeah, very knowledgeable guy, and. Cool. He's a huge fan. And
more the reason to go to hogville.net. I mean, you've got these guys, you got these coaches' dads going to the website.
Yes, sir. Henry Kennedy is somebody that's very active and like on the Hogville Facebook page stuff. Very active, and he's a very knowledgeable. I think I want to say I think he was in school administration or something maybe, and he retired. He's got some time on his hand. I believe that's right. But he's retired, but he's a very knowledgeable person, very positive person. I really enjoy him. I've talked to him on the phone, Henry and stuff, and very knowledgeable. And he's proud Cody's at Arkansas. Georgia offered him a lot of money in the offseason, Ty. I don't know how many times they got reported, but Georgia offered Cody a lot of money, and he turned them down to stay at Arkansas.
Wow. And he's not the only one to do that. He's not the only one to turn down money. We know that these guys have coordinators and whatnot. Barry Odom and
they've got offers. Barry Odom's got offers to go places. Kendall Briles could go somewhere tomorrow if he wanted to. I mean I don't know about tomorrow because people got the coach there. But I'm just saying they could get a job easily. Right. I mean all of them have had. Those guys have had their options, and so
We have a question here, and this is one, and I don't know how many more questions we'll take. We're probably about to wrap this up, but this is from Andrew McAdams again. How is Dwight McGlothern looking? I thought he looked great at LSU and figured he would come in and win the starting spot that Greg Brooks vacated. There's been some questions about what's going on with Dwight McGlothern. He has worked with the threes, but you have to take that with a grain of salt.
I think McGlothern's more of a cornerback where Brooks played a lot of nickel and stuff. And so I think Slusher will take Brooks' spot. But McLaughlin, I think when it's all said and done, he battled an injury here a week or two ago, but I think McLaughlin, I think honestly, when the dust settles, that he'll be the best cornerback on this year's team. I mean, too bad that Monteric Brown didn't come back and they could put Monteric on one side and Dwight on the other one. I think he's looked good to answer I believe Andrew's question there. I think he's looked very good. He's battled some injuries. And today, I believe Sam told me the first team was Hudson and Malik Chavis, I believe is who he put out there first. I'm almost certain that's what he told me. But he also said Nudie, Dwight, whatever you want to call him, is in the mix there. But I think when the dust settles on this season, if he has the season I think he's going to have, I think Dwight will be the best cornerback on the team. I really do. I think he's that good.
So since we're on the topic of secondaries here for a second, I'm just talking about the things that people say to me, whether it's in my DMs or in the Discord, Tuss Talk Discord, or on the Tuss Talk YouTube. People seem to be a little like, why is Hudson Clark still starting? And listen, I think Sam said today, the guy has had like 4 picks through fall camp. I think he might actually lead the secondary in picks.
Cadlon brought that up as well. Yeah, Cadlon did as well, Ty, I believe. Here's my concern with Hudson, and I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I'm just going to tell you my concern. It's probably I wish he had Malik and Day Ladarius Bishop. I wish he had their speed, or I wish Ladarius Bishop and Malik had Hudson's instincts.
Oh man.
I think Hudson just doesn't have the burning speed that you probably need at cornerback. I mean, I know if he's in a position, he's going to make a play on the ball. The problem is if he gets smoked and gets burnt, he can't be in a position to make play. But I think I just wish he had their speed or they had his instincts, because then you'd have a great cornerback. But Hudson, the one thing he's missing, the only thing, and I will say about Hudson, is just I think he's lacking that speed, burning speed. I think that's his hindrance. I've seen him get burnt quite a bit out there this fall. I know they talk about he does this and that, and I know he gets a lot of. If he's proved that in the Ole Miss game when he picked off 3 2 years ago. If he's in a position to make the play, he will make the play. Mm-hmm. His problem is if he gets burned, he's not in position. Hopefully, they have a system where Hudson can play with and make some plays like that. But I'm not gonna lie, I worry about his speed. I know that's probably what the people that are talking to you, Ty, or that are concerned about. I think we're all concerned about that. I hear people point. Okay, some of the players, some of the coaches talk about Hudson. I hear smart, athletic, this, that, intelligent, everything. But nobody ever says the word's fast. Has great speed. Nobody says that. That's the problem, and that's what concerns me about Hudson. Now, if they can figure out a way to soften that somehow, have a safety cover him up behind or something, okay. But if they don't, he's going to get burned some. But I worry about that. But there's a purpose for him to play. Well, that's probably not the right way to put it, purpose. But there's some plays where he can play and it will work. But if you're playing press man and he's out there on an island, you're asking for a disaster to happen, and that's just the way I see it. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully, Hudson, if he's in a position, he won't make the play, Ty. I do know that.
I feel like I've said that too. Like if he has no safety help over the top and they're in man coverage, which in that case they probably are, we've seen him just get completely burned. And but if he's back in zone, it's like, well, that's okay. He could be fine. He's smart. He's a high IQ guy. He knows where to be, and he actually has good hands. He's just a little slow.
That's the problem, and that's the problem with Ty. That's the problem with Hudson, and I'm not going to say I don't like saying stuff like that, but I can't sit here and act like the people saying that are idiots, and this kid's fast, and I can't do that. So I mean, I just worry about him out there in press man or man coverage, no safety help over the top. I worry about that because of his simple reason, speed, not his everything else. He checks every other box at corner. You could put a box of 10 things up at corner. He will check 9 of them.
Yep.
9 of them. The one thing he doesn't check is speed. That's, and if he, like I said, if he had Day or any of the other guys, basically any of them other guys, if he had basically any of their speed, he'd be he'd probably be a first or second round draft choice at corner because like I said, he's got everything else. He checks all the other boxes, Todd.
He does.
That's the one box he doesn't check, and that's a big box to not check at cornerback. That is a big box there because, I mean, when you're getting out there and you're on one-on-one, it's you and him. It's you and the receiver, and that's all that's out there. There's no help. That's a dangerous situation to be in, man. And, I mean, we'll see. Hopefully they've got this. I know Barry and them got systems, and I know they're going to work on it. But I do know there's some issues there.
Yeah. That does concern me a little bit with the secondaries. And I agree too with what someone was asking about Dwight McLaughlin earlier. Why hasn't he kind of bust the door down? And Dudley Dawson brought up a good point. Dudley said it's probably a good thing that these transfers didn't come in and just take over right away, because maybe that shows that the guys that are here are fighting and maybe they're getting better along the way. And so I agree with that assessment. But
yeah, I think they are. And I don't. And like I said, there's some. It's not as simple as saying, well, Hudson Clark sucks. You can't say that because, like I said, he checks a lot of boxes.
He does.
The other guys check a lot of boxes. I mean, I worry about taking it to a different level. I worry about Day and Malik's instincts and stuff. I mean, they've got the speed. They've got the athleticism that Hudson doesn't have. They've got the speed and athleticism, but they don't have the instincts he has.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a better word than instincts. I don't know what you want to call it, but that's one thing. But I mean, there's some concern with all those guys. But then again, I agree. It's not like all those guys absolutely just stink. They don't.
No, they don't.
There's 1 or 2 things holding them all back so far, but if they can figure it out, but I don't know how you figure out the lack of speed. That's the one thing I don't. That's why I feel like Day and Malik, maybe they can figure it out because they've got the athleticism and speed. Because the instincts and just repetitions will help get your instinct where you're not thinking. Yeah. But speed, I don't know how you develop that all of a sudden. I just don't. That worries me about Hudson. That's the part that worries me the most.
You can't coach speed. I mean, you either have it or you don't. And
that's like going out here and recruiting these linemen like 6'8", 6'9" kids. You can't coach 6'8", 6'9", man. I mean, Lane Jeffcoat, I'm going to watch next Friday night at Bentonville West. The kid's 6'9". You can't coach that. Now, he's got to do a lot of other things to be big, but speed, size, and stuff is stuff you don't coach. I mean, I'm talking about height. I know strength coach can put weight on, but Jamil Walker can't make Ty Hudson or Otis Kirk 6'9". He can't do it. He can work miracles, but he can't do that one.
He could probably get my ass in shape, though. He could probably do that.
Well, hopefully he could get mine. I need it, but I mean, he ain't gonna make me any taller,
Oh man. Well, all right, we're coming up on the hour. We do appreciate you guys. This was awesome. This was the longest live that I think I've done on Hogvillenet, and this was a good one. A lot of good stuff here, a lot to take in. Again, go to hogville.net for all the latest from Otis Kirk, Dudley Dawson, of course, with basketball with Kevin McPherson. And I'm here. I'm here on Hogvillenet YouTube, trying to churn and burn. Light the fires and kick the tires. That's what I'm doing here.
John D. James gets you some pictures to look
James
at.
Takes great photos, by the way. If you see any of those photos on Hogville, those are coming from him. He does a fantastic job. And I'm not doing this on my own. I'm doing this with a lot of help. I've got a pretty good support system here.
Well, we're all doing it with help. It's a part of a team. It's not a superstar or anything. We're doing this as a team. All of us are part of the team. And it was put together by Lanny Beavers, which is worth mentioning because without Lanny, I wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here. John wouldn't be here. Dudley wouldn't be here. Kevin wouldn't be here. So it all goes back to that. So, it starts with Lanny and then the rest of it's a team.
John Haas says, left lane hammer down.
Oh my God. That brings back bad memories. You didn't have to do that, John. Come on, man.
Well, I didn't say that. Hawes said that. And then
That's what I said. He didn't have to say, oh my God. I remember driving back from Fort Collins, Colorado, man. I drove up there because I spent the weekend. That was my birthday. Hell of a birthday to go watch Arkansas get beat by Colorado State. But I'm driving back at Monday. I stayed extra because I spent the time with my family up there, and we did some things for my birthday. Driving back that Monday, I had a caller from my lawyer's dad now passed away, but Richard asked me, said, what are you doing? I said, by God, this is the only hammer down left lane there's been. And I'm in the left lane, hammer down. The rest of us were broke down on the side of the road in the right lane. There was no hammer down. When they punted on 4th and inches to start the 4th quarter up there, I knew Chad, he could take that hammer down left lane crap and stick it because I knew he didn't mean a word of it. Once they punted to start the 4th quarter, he was there for the first down. Petaway was. They said, I don't care. They didn't. The referee said he wasn't. You don't punt to start the 4th quarter with inches to go. And you got Devwall Whaley and Cole Kelly and Ty Story and those guys run the ball and get the first down. So that ended the hammer down left lane for me, man.
When Kendall Briles yesterday talked about the 90% of the offense being installed, that also triggered from some folks, because that was the rhetoric we got out of Chad, talking about being such and such amount of offense installed, and it's like a week until you start the season. So
that's not our standard. I heard that after every loss. That's not our standard. Well, after about 22 games of watching that, I thought it was the standard because it was coming to standard. If it wasn't 4-18 record, 22 games, that's the standard. You're setting the standard. May not be what you want it to be, but that was the standard.
Yeah. You're right. It was, and thank God that is in the past. That's in a
Hunter Yurachek stepped up there and solved that issue and handled it like he has everything like a pro. And Hunter may be the best athletic director in the country, and that's not to get brownie points. That's just, I'm telling you, he took over a program, and he went and hired Eric Musselman, and he hired Sam Pittman. And, people question those hires at the time. I don't think anybody's questioning those hires right now,
not
though.
Anymore,
Either one of them. Not anybody with any sense is not.
No. All right, guys. Well, we appreciate you. Remember to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Go to hogville.net for everything free, for all the good stuff. Woo pig, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Go Hogs.
Thanks, Ty.
Absolutely. Thank you, Otis.